Okay, here we are at Two Sisters Gardens, and it is that time. We are doing our seedling. We've started our seedling. Can you see? Do you see all that stuff? It's crazy. We got stuff everywhere from all kinds of boxes and all kinds of lists. It's crazy. But anyway, we're trying to do our, this is our annual seeding. We start 8 to 6 weeks, right sis? Somewhere around there?
6 to 8 weeks, yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, there we go. So backwards, but anyway, 6 to 8 weeks we start doing the planting inside. We have lights, and I'll show you that here in a minute, but lights and heating pads. First they go on the heating pads because they need heat on their bottoms to get going. And we do what's called soil blocking, as you can see. We use that's the, what count is this again? I forgot.
240. Is that what you're saying? How many
Well,
blocks?
how many's in one block? I forget. 20 block, that's what I was trying to say. The 20 block seedling, which is 3/4 of an inch, isn't that what it is? 3/4 inch seed block, and 20 of them in one of the little stampers. And then we put 240 on these trays. And these are just like your little cafeteria food trays is what this is. So these are about an inch deep. And of course you have to water them every day. We usually do that in the mornings, and you give them enough water to soak up into the blocks, and then you pour off whatever excess you don't need. But anyway, this right now is aster that she's planting. This is called Gala Mix, and as you can see, she's using a little lid container with the different seeds in there, and she's taking a toothpick, and the toothpick is moist on the end, and she's just stabbing it on one seed, and it sticks to the seed sticks to the toothpick, and then she's able to put it into each little seed block. Now, if you get distracted, you become what's called the distracted seeder, and you end up losing your place, which is not good because you can lose count on where you're at and end up missing a whole block sometimes. So careful with that. If you do have to take a break, stab another toothpick in the one you left off at like that, and then you won't get sidetracked. All right. Problem is, phones ring, people come in the door, and all kinds of things go on.
Yeah, you look up and you lose your space.
Right. Spot. Yeah, it does happen. But anyway, we have lots and lots of different types of seeds that we're going to be planting that are hardy for our Zone 8 area here in Texas. So we get a lot of heat and not a whole lot of rain. So we have to make sure that what we're planting is going to be able to handle those circumstances, okay? So that's what we're planting is based on that. But some of the things that we're going to be planting are celosia, gomphrena, ageratum, aster, basil, sunflowers, of course, zinnias. We're doing atriplex, amaranthus, dara, marigolds. What else is this? Dill. Can't think of what else we were.
Zinnias.
I said zinnias. Yeah, lots of different colors of zinnias. We do the benaries. We like the giant benaries, and they do gorgeous and are super hardy for us here.
Greenery, like millet.
Yes, and right now what we have going on, I take you outside, but it's a nasty day out there. We have all of our hardy annuals that we planted back in October, and they are probably in about 2 weeks, we're going to be overrun with flowers. We're going to have flowers everywhere. We've got anemones coming out right now. We're going to have ranunculus. We have daffodils coming out right now, and there's several different varieties of those. That's new to us, so that's definitely something we're excited about to see how they're going to do. And then out here in her garden, she's got Lizzie's. We have snaps. We have corn cockle. We have bachelor buttons. We have nigella, dianthus, campanula. We're going to have ami, dara, and then what is the other one? Oh, Rebecca. We'll have Rebecca, and then Godacia. Godacia's gorgeous. Can't wait to see that again. I think what else is out there?
Yarrow.
The tall one that
Larkspur.
Thank you. Yarrow, larkspur. So those are all the ones that can last through the coolness of winter and do really well. And then this time, buflorum, we have that coming up everywhere. And that is, those are the ones that we like to put in the fall. They over winter, and when it starts getting nighttime temperatures around 50 or so and staying that way, they really go to town. I mean, they're already been growing for a while. They grow over the winter. They get to about, probably what do you say, about 18 inches to almost 20 inches tall, just in the green. Most of them, they'll grow in the green about that. And then about this time they start putting on buds. So a lot of them are out there already budding. Some are flowering already, like the yarrow is already flowering. But the year before last, we did not put them in as early as we should have. We put them in a little later, and we did not get the crop like we did this year. By putting them in October like you're supposed to, you should be done with putting them in by October, okay? By the end of October for our zone, we should be done, because they need warmth to get those seedling roots, because we do all of this just like we're doing here. Now, there are some direct seeds that we do, but most of it is done like this. But needless to say, they need the time of the warmth that's still going on at that time of the year in October to get their seed, to get their roots started and good. Once that happens, and they have that time to do that, then once it gets cold, they're good to go, okay? Now, we do row cover. We do floating row covers on them to help just give them that little bit of shelter. A lot of them don't even need it, but we do it anyway to just, give them some protection while they are growing. And what it does when you do that floating row cover that we found this year that we didn't see as much last year was that really got a lot of growth and greenery right at the beginning. If I took you out there right now, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, it just looks like a bush down through some of those rows. It's just crazy how much we got. So we've been thinning and we've been weeding out, and we did a bad thing. We left plants in the garden too long, and seeds fell and seeds grew everywhere in between our rows and everything. So we're finding out that
So we don't have weeds, we have flower seedlings.
everywhere. We don't have weeds. We're not having a weed problem, really. I mean, there's a little bit of grass out there, but it ain't bad, right? And a little bit of chickweed, but it isn't even bad. It's the flower seeds that fell the year before that are just everywhere. So we are having to grit our teeth and pull all of those because, it's like, oh, those are flowers. We hate to pull them, but they're there. And we can't have them. They're just thick through some places. So
Yeah, they'll choke out the ones that we do need.
right. And so you don't want to be overfilled in areas, because then you won't get the height, you won't get the amount of flowers you would get if you weed it. Okay? I think that was one of the hardest things for me. I don't know if it was one of the hardest things for you, but over the years, that has been one of the hardest things for me, is to weed the other flowers out,
Cool
and
things that you could possibly use.
And I'm just like, it's okay, it's not hurting nothing, it's just gonna make another flower, it'll be okay, right? But the problem is as time goes on and they get bigger, they really do smother each other out, or they really do suck up all the nutrients in that area, and they start to die off quicker, and they don't do as well.
Yeah, like the larkspur right now is amongst 1 million Ami. And the Ami's stem can get that big around. And the larkspur gets about this big around.
Yeah.
And so it literally, in the Ami bushes.
Yeah.
And so it's literally pushing the larkspur, it's not letting the larkspur.
Literally smothering them,
Yeah.
so we're having to weed out. We're having to pull all those good-looking Ami, because we have a whole nother bed of Ami that's that thick or better. So,
We don't need it.
and we're gonna have to, thin some of that as well, probably. But needless to say, that's been the hardest part for us, is to say, okay, yeah, you gotta think like a farmer here. If you want the best out of your crop, you can't overrun it with too much in one space.
I may have possibly double-seeded that. Because I looked up.
She looked up. Yeah. All right. So anyway, let me just show you a couple of things that we do too, because she's going to keep seeding, and if I don't bother her, maybe she won't forget where she's at. Okay. So here's what we do. So there's a couple of different things we do. So over here, this is our container with our mix for the blocks. This is the blocker that I was talking about. And you have to pack it really good with this. We may do other videos to show you how that all works. But anyway, we punch it out onto those trays. And believe it or not, a potato smasher is what you take to work off the excess. Mix it up too. It helps to mix up the stuff when we're doing it. All right. And then once we get it on the trays and she gets through seeding it the way she's doing right now, it comes over to our heating mats. This is the heating mats right here. So these are on, and then the trays sit here with a marker in them, so we know when we planted them and what variety we have planted. And we will, since these are good and wet, because when your mixture is good and wet, you don't have to, of course, wet them right after you seed them. But tomorrow morning, we will come out.
Yeah, and I kind of disintegrated it a little.
Oh, because we had them a little too wet? Or did you wet it, or what did you do?
Yeah, I watered them this
Oh,
morning
okay.
and it accidentally disintegrated.
Okay. You got to be careful with your water, and you got to be real gentle. A lot of times it's good if you just push your, let me see, where is one of our little green, I don't know where it was. Is it over here? Hang on just a second. I'm going to grab a watering can so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so this watering can is what we use. And we also fertilize once every week with this. And we use a fish fertilizer, which is what, Patty, I forget the name of that.
Neptune's Harvest. Sorry.
Neptune's Harvest. And we use about a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, what is it? Per gallon. A tablespoon per gallon. And we mix that up in another container, and then we pour that into here. So once a week, it gets fertilizer, okay? So then when we pour it into here, we try to push our spout up against the edge here as the water's flowing out, because if you turn it towards your seedlings, that's when it'll sometimes wash it out if you're not careful. So turn it towards the edge and let it run into here until you get enough water that you've covered the whole bottom of the tray, because you don't want to see any parts of the tray. And then sometimes you have to just let it, once you do that, you walk away from it, you water the other ones, come back. If it's all dried up and there's no water, you may need to give it a little bit more. If there's still water setting, that's when you're gonna have a bucket somewhere and a way to pour it off, okay? Because you don't want water setting in these, they will disintegrate if they're sitting in water, okay? But every morning, every day, you have to do this, every day, okay? So, no vacations during seedling time. Somebody has to be here at all times during that time. All right, so that's what's going on here. So they sit on here until 75%? Or 50%?
So 50% has sprouted.
50%.
Literally, all they have to do is just sprout.
Right. We need to just see them popping up out of these little blocks. When we can see that the seed has germinated and 50% of this tray is starting to germinate, that's when we take them from here and then they go over to our lighting system. So this is what we have set up with our lights. And then, of course, they're not on right now because we don't have any trays yet under there. But once those start sprouting, they're gonna come and they're gonna sit, and we lower the trays and get them, lower the lights to get them just a few, like an inch or so above the tray itself, because you want your lights to start out close above your seedlings. And then as they grow, you will raise the lights, hence the chains that you see right here. This is what the chains are all about. So we raise and lower those based on what the seedlings are doing at that time, okay? All right, and that's a process that goes on for how long, Patty? About,
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks, right? Because it's about the time that we need to.
Well, according to when they've been put under the lights. So if they germinated and it took them a week,
Right.
then they'll be under the lights for the next 5, 6 weeks, whatever time to plant.
Right.
And it will harden off for a week too.
We do a hardening off outside. We take them outside. We have racks and stuff out there that we put them on. And you got to be careful about that, especially here for us, because we have direct hot sun early in the year. And so we have to be careful, because even though you're watering those, that if they're sitting out there hardening off, they're going to dry out quickly. So just make sure. Yeah, they really need to kind of be in the shade at first. Like if they get a little bit of sun, that's fine. Just not all day sun, because that would be too much. And if it starts to rain and you don't have them under a covering, you definitely need to bring them back in, because it'll wash them out. It washes out the trays if you're not careful. So you definitely need to set up for that. We're working on a covering out here eventually to have, but again, you know, we just have to be careful when we set them out there. We have to make sure at the end of the day we bring them back in. Okay. What else did I miss? What did I not think of that we're processing today? This is the process. This is what we're doing. This is the process. Yeah, so anyway,
keep the room warm.
yes, that's the other
because
thing. We have a regulated temperature thing. Thanks for that, sis. That's a really good point. So even though it's different times. So when we're doing the hardy annuals, we keep it cool in here because they need coolness to they need warmth to germinate right at the first, but then after they get germinated and start to grow, then it needs to stay a certain coolness in the room so that we don't kill them by heat. If it was too warm in here, they wouldn't do well. That's the hardy annuals.
Yeah, warm soil, cool air.
Cool air, right. Warm soil, cool air. And then for these types that we're planting right now, the annuals for the summer annuals, they like warmth. So from warmth to warmth, they're gonna need it a little warmer in this room. And right now it's still kind of cool and we're getting nighttime temperatures are still dropping down into the 20s sometimes. So we will now need to continue to run the unit to keep it a certain temperature in here while these seedlings are doing their thing. Otherwise we would not have good germination, we would not have good seedlings when it gets time to plant, okay? All right, so when we get to the point that we're gonna be putting them in the ground, we'll probably do more videos so you guys can see what we're doing. So make sure that you like and share us. And if you have any questions about what we're doing, always feel free to, post a question or whatever, and we'll be glad to get back with you on that. All right, well, I hope y'all all have a great day. Happy seeding.